And this is the sixth game between Morphy and Harrwitz. And Paul Morphy is defeating Harrwitz with 1 extra points. Paul Morphy is 3 points and Harrwitz is 2 right now. And this game, Game 6 between Morphy and Harrwitz, was played 5 days later after the previous game. So Paul Morphy is defeating Harrwitz with 1 extra points. And this game was played on September 18 in Paris, 1858. So let's quickly check out this magnificent chess game between these two players. And this time, Paul Morphy has the white pieces. And Paul Morphy starts the game with playing e4, e5 by Harrwitz, knight to f3, d6, Philidor's defense, d4, e takes on d4, queen takes on d4, knight to f6, e5, d takes on e5, queen takes queen, king takes on d8, and Paul Morphy captures on e5 with the knight and attacking on f7, defending with the bishop, knight to c3, bishop to d6, attacking the knight, knight to c4, bishop takes on c4. And after this move, Harrwitz played rook to e8, that's check, blocking with the bishop, king to e7, and hoping to bring the king to the safety, and also defending the pawn. But after this move, Paul Morphy castled in the queen side, a6, bishop to g5, knight from b to d7, knight to e4, and Harrwitz is asking a question to the bishop, h6, Paul Morphy captures the knight, bishop takes on f6, knight takes on f6, and then Paul Morphy chops the bishop with the knight, knight takes on d6. So what else? Harrwitz captures back, c takes on d6, and in this position, Paul Morphy created one isolated weak pawn, and constantly Paul Morphy is going to target that pawn. Black is going to suffer. So we have rook from h to e1 by Paul Morphy, king to f8, and then exchanging the rooks. Knight takes on e8. If king takes on e8, then rook takes on d6. So knight takes on e8, bishop to d5, attacking the pawn, defending with the rook, rook to b8, bishop to f3 by Paul Morphy, g6, c3, king to e7, rook to e1, that's check, king to f8, king to c2, knight to c7, king to b3, and Paul Morphy is activating his king, slowly moving to the north with the king. So Harrwitz played knight to e6, king to a4, b6, b4, h5, h4, king to e7, rook to e3, king to d7, bishop to d5 by Paul Morphy, rook to e8, king to b3, rook to g8, rook to f3, defending the pawn, a4, a5, and Paul Morphy captures the knight, bishop takes on e6, king takes on e6. Well, if f takes on e6, it looks like this move is more logical, so connecting the pawns. But in this position, it really doesn't matter, because we have king to c4, and slowly white is maneuvering the king to the forward and hoping to collect the pawns. You can't really defend, so d5, king to b5, rook to b8, rook to g3. So everything is falling apart for black, sooner or later. Again, this is losing for black. So let me show you a few more moves. And what now? King to d4 and king takes on b5. This is losing for black. So I don't know how Harrwitz saw all of these moves, but he decided to capture the bishop with the king. But then king to c4 by Paul Morphy, maneuvering the king to the forward and hoping to collect the pawns. And Paul Morphy's pieces are more active. And most importantly, Paul Morphy has the active king. And in this endgame, you see the importance of the active king. We have king to c4, and Daniel Harrwitz played g5, king to b5, a takes on b4, c takes on b4, g takes on h4, king takes on b6, and Paul Morphy has this dangerous passed pawns. Rook to b8, that's check, defending the pawn, king to a5, king to d5, rook to d3, that's check, but here comes king to c4, attacking the rook, and also attacking the pawn on b4 at the same time. Well, Paul Morphy knows what he is doing, and probably Paul Morphy anticipated this move. So he was expecting this, and he played rook takes on d6. This is actually part of the plan of Paul Morphy. So after rook takes on d6, Harrwitz of course captures the pawn, rook takes on b4. After rook takes on d6, if let's say rook to a8, white is easily defending if exchanging the rooks. King takes on b4 but a5, and you can't stop the a pawn. So king to c5, king to b7, and it's all over for black. White is going to promote a queen. So after king to c4, Paul Morphy captures on d6 and then rook takes on b4. It's white to move, and Paul Morphy played a killer move. Well, can you guess that move? What would you do in this position if you had the white pieces? Well, Paul Morphy played rook to d4, that's check, deflecting the king for defending the rook. So king takes on d4 and then king takes on b4. And how to stop the a pawn? Well, black played f5, f4 by Paul Morphy, king to e3, a5, king to f2, a6, king takes on g2, and Harrwitz wants to push the pawn. And also he's hoping to promote a queen, but Paul Morphy is closer, and Paul Morphy played h7, h3, and boom, a pawn promoted to a queen. It's too late for Harrwitz. We have king to g1, and Paul Morphy played queen to f3. And after this move, Harrwitz resigned once again, and Paul Morphy defeated Harrwitz 4 times in a row. Paul Morphy dominates the game, and again Paul Morphy is keeping his promise by not letting Harrwitz to win one more single game. This is unbelievable. Especially in the 19th century at that time, Paul Morphy was the strongest player by far. And when Paul Morphy cares to win, it's very difficult to defeat Paul Morphy. So after queen to f3, Harrwitz resigned. And this is the last position of the game. So the first move that comes to mind is h2. After h2, how to defend the pawn? Well, queen to g3 is winning on the spot. So after king to h1, we have queen to f2. And this is not settlemate. Black needs to push the pawn. So h4, this is the only move. And then queen to f1, checkmate. After queen to g3, if king to f1, then queen takes on h2, and there is forced checkmate in 4 moves. So let me show you the moves. Queen to e2, checkmate. There is no defense for black. After queen to f3, this is why Harrwitz resigned at move 48. After Morphy played queen to f3, and now Paul Morphy is defeating Harrwitz with 2 extra points. But after this game, Harrwitz again pleaded ill, and he wanted to postpone the match once again. So he realized that he needs to study even more. So Harrwitz wanted to postpone the match for 10 days. So the next game was played 10 days later after this game. But more importantly, Daniel Harrwitz's attitude has changed after this game. He was not the same arrogant man. His overbearing, insolent attitude has changed very dramatically after this game. So Paul Morphy is 4 points and Daniel Harrwitz is 2 points. Paul Morphy is leading with 2 extra points. But more importantly, Paul Morphy defeated Harrwitz 4 times in a row. You won't see that very often in the competitive level chess. So anyway, Paul Morphy wins once again. So I hope you have enjoyed watching this video and I hope to see you next time. Take care and bye bye for now.